Yo, what's good, people? We back at it for another episode. You know what it is. What's the word with LG Mental Podcast? Always, I'm your host with the most, LJ. We back, we locked in here. You know what it is. Um, as always, this month, continuing this trend. We got a little trend going on. I think it's important to embrace Black History Month for everybody, especially me being a black man. Um, Definitely want to I think we should be celebrated. And despite what some cultures may think, we are black people. We are far from monolithic. Um, we are so many. There are so many different black people out here on the contributions we've had throughout society should be recognized, should um, be taught, and I think that leads to a better society. For one, we get more opportunities out here in this world in a variety of different areas and leadership roles, maybe in some ownership stake. Yeah, it needs to be embraced. It needs to be talked about at all time high. So I definitely want to embrace that as a whole, especially me being black. So yes, that's to be celebrated. Um, so yeah, before I get into that, just want to talk about real quick because I've been having a conversation with people uh, about this daggone pandemic, right? And things that we used to before, right? About man, is this pandemic ever going to end? It's just wild, like, 'cause we still locked up, we got these masks on, we still different events and stuff that we used to go to, and this is crazy, right? Uh, but yeah, it's wild. Is it ever gonna get to a point where we don't need masks? Like, it's wild. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. What do y'all think? Like, are we ever gonna get to a point where we don't need masks again? Um, who knows? It's wild. But yeah, let's get right into what this episode is really about. And this is part three of Black History Month. So this week we'll be talking about we're gonna go in a couple of different areas. So the word of the week is gonna be creativity. And that can be taken a lot of different ways. But I want to focus specifically on like the arts and media and entertainment, as far as television, entertainment, maybe some authors that I just want to highlight, especially throughout history. So let's focus on like I want to talk about like some embracing some big time culture figures in the Black history who really changed the game, really, um, and especially like some black women. I want to highlight one. We all know about Oprah, right? How she is a culture shifter and changer, and a lot of people have followed suit in her footsteps. We all know about her, you know, big time talk shows she's had through many years, and what she's done now with the magazine and the network and everything. But man, she comes from very humble beginnings, and is to be celebrated. The culture for one, that Oprah started with the talk show, and look at what followed. Not just with other black people, but some white folks have followed in the footsteps as well as far as the talk shows. Look at obviously other people come from other backgrounds. Obviously in the 90s, you had people like Arsenio Hall, some white figures like Ricky Lake, like some talk shows. But Oprah kind of started. She wasn't the very first talk show, but she changed. She was the one that changed the culture as far as like started something. As far as daytime talk shows, Oprah was the one that really embraced that. Look at what Ellen is doing. So more recently, like that format is really what Oprah set up. Um, so it's amazing to see the culture that she's helped a lot of people along the way. She's known for giving stuff to people, obviously, and and other people have followed suit. So I think that's another figure that we embrace here. Also want to now another black cult icon that I want to focus on. Another black woman, somebody that changed culture in a different way. Um, Known as for one of being the greatest authors in history, recites great poetry. Uh, Also has done television and movies as well. Has some of the greatest quotes I think of all time. Some are to live by for sure. One of my favorite quotes, and I'm talking about Maya Angelou. One of my favorite quotes of all time is definitely from Maya Angelou. Somebody shows you who they are, believe them. What that basically means is not just some saying. Like what that really means is somebody shows you who they are, like somebody who really, like you might think you might know somebody for like maybe a week, a few weeks, maybe a few months. But when shit hits the fan, like if shit get real, as people say, shit get real, um, it's it comes a point in time where people gonna show you who they really are when they pissed off, because there's a saying that people don't nobody tell you the truth more so than drunk people, kids, and people who are pissed off. They gonna show you who they really are at the end of that day. If they the same person they are when nothing going on, then you got a real one. And sometimes it's hard to keep your composure when you angry, or you drunk or whatever. I think getting drunk is just an excuse to get away with stuff you wouldn't when you sober. Um, at the end of the day, but that's a good way to show who somebody really is. That's when the real come out. Like when you drunk, or you just could be sober and not give a damn, and you just have no filter or whatever. Like you just that's when the truth really come out. So that was that saying is really about. Somebody really shows you who they really are. Believe that shit, because whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever, that's who they are, and that's one of the greatest quotes of all time. Um, and it's Maya Angelou, and she's known for being, like I said, a great author. Um, some of her greatest books, some of her, she's known for some movies as well. She's just a great figure to point to as well as far as black history is concerned. And I just want to highlight, as I've been doing each week, some figures that are older and some newer as well. But I wanted to brace Maya Angelou, rest in peace to her as well. You probably know she's no longer with us. But yeah, that's what we talking about this week. And so let me go from here. So we're gonna go in a couple different areas with this. So I want to address, because in all aspects of, especially in U.S. American society, black people have gotten the short end of the stick for a long time. And things are starting to change. We black people getting more opportunities. We getting recognized. We getting noticed, and we getting a piece of the pie, so to speak. But it's still a long road to go as a whole. But just to point out some of those aspects of what's went on throughout this country is, for one, we could start back, and this focus this week is entertainment, this creativity and entertainment. And so let's go back for a second, and then we're gonna bring it back to the present. We want to go back to, like, let's start with sitcoms, right? TV shows. So before there was ever like any black lead shows, there was always a bunch of shows out there. And from the beginning, there was this show called Amos and Andy, right? The original concept was for some white men, white male friends, but it actually led to. It was on radio at first, and then it went to television. Um, then when it got to television, the two lead characters were black actors. Um, when we got to that point, this was the first time in U.S. history. This was in 1951. This is the first time ever that there were some black lead roles on television. Before that, that never happened before. So that's to be celebrated. It was the first time that really resonated with a wide audience, not just in a black community, but overall. We've seen black sitcoms that have come after that, especially in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, big time. Some of the ones who's really taken that to the next level, I think, was Good Times, The Jeffersons, definitely. Sanford and Son. Those shows took it to the next level. That really resonated. The Jeffersons lasted 11 seasons, so obviously they did something right. And then it led to other shows like Amen, 227, a lot of great shows. And then obviously you come even further to the 90s, to shows like Fresh Prince, Martin, especially Fresh Prince. That was huge. Show was real iconic. I think people could still watch it. I know I could still watch it to this day. And certain scenes in that show that still resonated like this. I just saw for the first time. It's that impactful. There's other shows I think that I might have found more funny than Fresh Prince. It has funny moments, but I think as far as cultural impact, especially in the black community, I think that was a whole, because there was a lot of aspects in it that really embraced black culture, especially with the early in the show when they talked about they tried to have a black history class, really show real black history, embracing Malcolm X autobiography, Malcolm X episodes of discrimination with Will Carlton getting locked up for no reason. They thinking because of black kids driving a nice car, they stole the car. They got that aspect. That's still a real thing to this day. That still happens. Obviously, with all these police videos, somebody said that it's not more racist now. It's just being recorded. There's more evidence to show that this shit has always been around. Obviously, the Rodney King tape back in the 90s was one of the rare videos of showing police brutality at its finest. That was one of the rare, because nobody didn't have camera phones back then to record stuff, so it wasn't as easy access. It's kind of crazy that they were even to capture that video of this man getting beat for no reason. But yeah, I think the cultural impact of what shows like I said, what Amos and Andy they did in the 70s, 80s, and then the 90s, of the cultural impact they had, and they were good shows too. Like it, because obviously you want to show this. A lot of the sitcoms are funny, and you want it to be entertaining. And it's obviously shown throughout time. You can go back and look at them, and it's defined generations really. So things always start from somewhere. It's always hard to pinpoint where things start and grow. But they do, and certain things is gonna outlive us all, and that's what this is about. At the end of the day, you want to create something that's gonna outlive you, and that's what some of them shows have done. I think they've outlived them, just like it's like a Disney or a Marvel. Obviously, those are major companies, but I think some of those TV shows, especially in the black community, have created some cultural relevance in society that still exists to this day, and they've created something that's gonna outlive them. It's really amazing that that's been the case, and it's been great to witness and see. So we go from that. We talk about the TV shows, obviously. Um, TV shows aren't what they once were now, as far as sitcoms is concerned. They had the studio audiences back then, but now, because now, especially now, you got Netflix deals and you got the shows are streaming, but it's amazing to see the impact from where we've come, especially in the black communities of now. And you still got some great shows out here now. And, Blackish is a good one now. Um, in the early 2000s, you had shows like Girlfriends, who actually had some good cultural relevance as well. If you watched that show, it was actually a pretty good show. Um, but yeah, it's been a ton since the start. And you know, one thing that's real interesting too, we talk about TV shows that have come and really created, especially in the black community, have come and created history and changed history. But let's talk about movies now. And you know, the Oscars has been around since 1927. That was the first time the Oscars have been around. First someone ever won an Oscar, right? You know, the first time a black person ever won an Oscar was a black woman named Hattie McDaniel. 1939 for the movie Gone with the Wind. That's actually a movie I've heard a lot of people talk about, even now for many years, have talked about back in the 30s, right? But throughout all this time, this Oscar's been around for 93 years. And throughout that time period, did you know that there's only been 14 people that have actually, black people, that have actually won an Oscar? 14. Out of all these amazing, legendary movies, there's only been 14 throughout history that have won an Oscar. I think there's getting more recognition now. And the first time a black person ever won an Oscar as a lead role was in 1963, a man by the name of Sidney Poitier. But yeah, it's obviously it led to other great time actors getting Oscar, like Denzel Washington won as a lead role, Halle Berry won, Monique won an Oscar, but a lot of these have been supporting roles. There's been some great movies out there. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting too, and it's something to highlight as well. And just the most recently, to change the tone a little bit, just last year, the first ever black animated short film won an Oscar called Hair Love. This last year's first ever black animated film to win an Oscar, so that's pretty great too. So we starting to get some recognition in other areas showing how these different, this is just another example of how black shows and black people as a whole we show creativity in so many different ways, especially in the animated world as well. There's been other great like TV shows in the animated world that show cultural relevance as well. Boondocks is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of that. Funny, but has some great lessons in it. That's what a lot of black comedians do as well. They embrace, especially too, you listen to a lot of all-time greats come from maybe a rough background, but they laugh. They try to create something funny to not really have the pain there. A lot of their jokes, especially when you look at people like Chris Rock, one of the greatest of all time. A lot of his jokes are absolutely hilarious. But there's a lot of truth to it, too. A lot of his jokes. And it's crazy to see throughout history as well. So we look at these different TV shows throughout the years. A lot of the movies throughout the years that showed different parts of the history. It's amazing to see how far we've come as a whole. But and even with television networks, right? Because we obviously got BET, which came around in the '80s. Created a lot of great personalities from that show, black personalities from there. And now we obviously got the own network. We got TV One that sticks out. But this week I wanted to point out different ways showing how creativity in the black community we are. So that's what this is all about. To create awareness, show respect, pay homage, all of the above. So yeah, that's definitely what we're doing here. So that's gonna be it for me this week. So this has been another episode of What's Your Word with LD Mental Podcast. I'm out.